Every day, a fully grown tiger would show up at the gates of an Indian military camp, growling and pacing back and forth. The soldiers were perplexed. Trained for battle, they weren't prepared to face a tiger. What was this tiger after, and why did it come to the camp every single day? Stick around to find out. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible tales. Some began to believe that the tiger was looking for food and was scanning the fence for an entrance into the base. The fear in the camp grew. Eventually, it grew so much that the squad commander was forced to act. He couldn't watch his men suffer under the presence of the predator and run the risk of something happening to them every day. So the commander decided to contact a zoologist in the nearby town. The zoologist was very surprised to be contacted by the military. He had never experienced a situation like this in all his years. Nevertheless, the man agreed to go to the military base to help the helpless people. When the zoologist entered the military compound, he could practically smell the soldiers' fear. Something was clearly wrong. He was escorted to the commander's quarters, where the problem was explained to him. A full-grown tiger striding along a military fence every day? The zoologist could hardly believe what he was hearing. This was very unusual behavior for such a big cat. Of course, the man agreed to help. So with the help of the brave soldiers, he started recording the tiger's movements, at what time of the day it sneaked out of the dense Indian jungle. The zoologist spent 2 days observing the predator and came to a bold conclusion. He visited the commander again in his quarters and explained to him that, based on his findings, the tiger was trying to get the soldiers' attention and was in fact not a threat. The zoologist asked for a few hours to come up with a plan to solve the problem. The commander waited patiently, and just as the sun began to hide behind the trees again, the zoologist announced his plan. He asked a group of the bravest and fittest soldiers to accompany him to track down the tiger. At first, the commander was not very convinced. He was worried about risking his soldiers' lives based on the opinion of a supposed expert. However, when word spread around the camp that the zoologist was looking for a group of men, many soon volunteered. In their opinion, if tracking the predator was the only way to get the tiger to leave the camp, they had to help. And so the commander agreed. The zoologist explained the risks they would be taking on. The men agreed that they would follow his instructions and provide protection if necessary. The zoologist pointed out the importance of remaining calm if they were to successfully follow the tiger into the dense and lush jungle. The group of men got into position and waited. Only when the sun appeared in the sky did the tiger come sneaking out of the jungle in his usual manner. He came up to the fence and began his ritual of walking along the fence. The low growl frightened the group of soldiers, but the zoologist was able to calm them down. After about an hour, the tiger turned back to the jungle. Now, the group of men had to embark on their dangerous mission. At a safe distance from the predator, the men began to stalk the striped cat. The humid humidity made it difficult for the soldiers as they pushed deeper and deeper into the dense jungle. Every now and then the tiger stopped and turned to the group. He seemed to have noticed the men, but he didn't mind that they were following him. On the contrary, it seemed like every time he turned around, he wanted to make sure they were still following him. However, as night fell, the tiger disappeared. With no other option, the soldiers cautiously set up camp. Everyone took turns looking for threats. The next day, the tiger was nowhere to be seen. Disappointed, the group began to wonder if the zoologist had made a mistake. They thought that the tiger had actually lured them to his hunting grounds. But the zoologist kept calm and assured the men that he was a good tracker. So the troop went looking for clues and soon found them. The group then followed the tiger tracks. After a while, they stopped. They heard a loud noise. They broke through the edge of the jungle and found a raging river. After the recent monsoon rains, it was only logical that the river would roar like it did. The zoologist was worried because the tracks stopped at the river. This meant that the tiger had swum across the river. But why? He knew that tigers were good swimmers, but with a raging river like this, it made no sense that the tiger would risk his life like that. At that moment, one of the soldiers shouted excitedly, "There he is!" Just a little further upstream was their orange and black striped friend. He was standing near a rocky area that appeared to have been disturbed by the floodwaters. So the group worked their way up the riverbank to find a safe place to cross. They found a flat, rocky path that led to the tiger. They made progress slowly, one behind the other. The closer they got, the further upstream the tiger went. When the zoologist reached the other side, he was determined to follow the retreating tiger. But then he was called back by the soldiers. At first, he ignored them, but then he was shouted at until he turned around. The soldiers gestured towards the boulders that lay where the tiger had previously stood. Two of the men began removing stones. When the zoologist returned, the soldiers explained that they had heard screaming among the rocks, so together they tried to see what was under the rubble. When one of the soldiers managed to pull up one of the last remaining solid rocks, a cavity opened up underneath. The zoologist pointed his flashlight into the dark abyss and was greeted by 4 eyes. Then he realized that they were the tiger cubs trapped down there. He instructed the soldiers to quickly remove all other rocks. And indeed, there sat 2 small tiger cubs in a cave-like formation. It became clear that the tiger was not male, but female. She must have left her young in the cave while hunting, which was subsequently flooded by the flowing river due to the continuous rain. All the water had left a pile of rubble in which the boys were trapped. Unable to free themselves, they called for their mother. Because they had no way of freeing her, she sought help from the soldiers who were camped a few kilometers away. They finally understood what she needed. She wasn't sneaking around the military base because she was hungry or wanted to invade. She asked for help. The group pulled the boys out of the cave and gently placed them on the ground, far away from the rushing river. They heard a loud roar from upriver and realized that the mother tiger could see her cubs and was desperate to get to them. So they retreated across the river the way they came. They waited patiently until they could watch the reunion between the mother and her young. Then the moment that everyone had been feverishly waiting for finally arrived. It was a sight the men never expected. The mother ran down to her cubs and immediately began petting and grooming them. The 2 tiger cubs were reunited with their mother. The soldiers were overjoyed and made their way back to camp. The tiger has not appeared at the camp since then, and the soldiers knew that the mother and her cubs were fine. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.